Welcome to the Grow Your Own series of lectures presented by Fort Bend County AgriLife Extension and Fort Bend Master Gardeners. My name is Nancy Utek, and I'm a Fort Bend Master Gardener in charge of programs. If you're new to us, the Fort Bend Master Gardeners are trained volunteers who assist the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service in educating the community with research-based horticultural information. Our topic today is fruit trees, the first of 6 classes in our 2024 Grow Your Own series. This lecture was originally given on January 20th of this year. The video of that class, however, was corrupted, and we are redoing the presentation. You can find the video links of past classes and our virtual landscape success classes on our website, fbmg.org. I'm now very happy to introduce our instructors for tonight, Artie Manzel and Angela Chan. Artie is a multi-talented soul with not one, but 2 master's degrees in computer applications and history. From being a teacher to nurturing her own family, she's worn many hats with grace. In 2021, she blossomed into a master gardener, and now her heart is set on creating a plant nursery and owning a local seed company in Richmond. Whether it's supplying produce to those in need or teaming up with a nonprofit to make the world greener, Artie's passion for the earth shines through in all that she does. Angela is a CPA and the CFO of a smart financial credit union. She started gardening in 2015 and became a master gardener in 2019. She calls herself a lazy gardener and prefers to grow what thrives here without a ton of input, and laments that her husband and 2 adult children do not share more of her love for the garden other than at harvest time. Besides volunteering for Fort Bend Master Gardeners, she is an organization review volunteer for the United Way, served as a Sunday school teacher and board member for a variety of nonprofit organizations over the years. Without further ado, I would like to turn the class over to Artie and Angela.
Well, thank you, Nancy, for that introduction. Our agenda today will cover climates, fruit trees, site selections, and much more, because successful fruit culture depends on a good understanding of all of the factors to make the trees thrive and produce fruits. Next. So climate, as you can see in this slide, there's a big section that's pinkish in the middle. That's the tropics. It's the equator going north or south by about 23.5 degrees. And then the next section up is the subtropics, which is where we are at in Texas, Fort Bend County. And then north of us or further south on the southern part of the globe is the temperate zone. So weather is what we experience from moment to moment, but this climate zone is really accumulated over a period of 30 years or more. And where we are in United States, we devised a system called the USDA Plant Hardiness Zone. The hardiness zone gives us 2 things. One is a zone number with a average winter low temperature. We're in zone 9A for the most part, and that's low of 20 to about 25 degrees. And what this hardiness zone also gives us is chill hours. On the next slide. So you can check chill hours by visiting texaset.tamu.edu and put the information of your zip code in there and click the chill unit buttons. This is a new site that will give you chill hours for the current year. Hopefully in future years, they will be able to share some historical numbers. And so our zone in 9A shows 400 to 600 chill hours, but really we get at most about 450 hours. Even in the year we have URI, we're barely getting to 500 hours. And many of us are in 9A, but then some of the northern areas of Fort Bend County may be updated to zone 9B now. It's about a 5-degree temperature difference in the 9A between to 9B. So the chill hours usually is measured either directly as a below 45 degrees or between 32 and 45. For most of us, since we don't get to control the climate, we just take that, hey, we are around 350 to about 450 range overall for what we can get in our zones. So why is climate so important? Because as you can see on the next slide, temperate fruits require chill hours. And a lot of the fruits that we enjoy and we buy from the grocery stores, like apple, blackberries, cherries, grapes, peach, pear, require chill hours to grow and thrive in order to produce fruit. Subtropical fruits, on the other hand, needs a hot summer. They may be able to take some frost, but for the most part, they prefer warmer, humid weather, and subtropical fruits cannot tolerate freeze at all. It needs a lot more humidity and preferably consistent temperature. But they produce very delicious fruits that we all love to have. And so many of us try to grow a lot of varieties, whether or not they thrive naturally in our environment or not. So let's quickly take a look at fruit tree parts on the next slide. We're familiar with how the tree look. The important thing is to look at the cross-section of a tree trunk. In particular, focus on the cambium layer. That's the section right next to the bark. This layer is extremely important and requires a lot of protection, especially when the tree is young, is because the cells from the cambium layer could turn into a secondary xylem that grows toward the middle that becomes a heartwood, or the cells can turn into phloem and that becomes the bark. And so if the cambium layer is damaged, it does not have the ability to grow the xylem cells, which takes up water and nutrient up and down the tree. And so the tree could become weak and may eventually die. So protect that cambium layer of the tree, especially when they're young. On the next slide, we'll look at rootstocks. So not all fruit trees, most of the fruit trees, are grafted. And that's because they're good for size control. It can also increase the longevity of the tree, and it helps with water and nutrient uptake. And many of the rootstocks are either native or specifically developed as a rootstock because they are resistant to pest and disease. And they could also increase hardiness for the fruit that is called the xylem on the top. As you can see from the arrow point, that's where the grafting happens. So the part below the little cricket area is the rootstock. That's usually about 3 to 4 inches above ground. And then the section above is actually the fruit tree that we're all buying. So the rootstock also helps with fruit yield, and it could also produce a better root mass, root system. But for the most part, we have a limited ability to control when we buy fruit trees, what type of rootstock we get. And so having a basic understanding is really sufficient. So on the next slide, when we select fruit trees, we need to consider whether or not the fruit tree is self-fertile or requires a pollinator in order to produce fruit. On this chart, we try to classify or quantify what type of fruit trees are self-fertile and pollinator needed, but there's always exceptions. For example, apples, by and large, they require pollinator, but it just happened that the varieties that will grow well here in Fort Bend County are all self-fertile. And even jujube, for the most part, they are self-fertile, but now the newer form varieties require a pollinator. So it's not an absolute, make sure that you check and do your research, check the labels before you commit to a purchase. The next thing is a specific varieties. Next slide. Next slide, please. So the next thing that we want to consider is varieties. Not all fruits are created equal, and some of the varieties can do better here than other varieties. And For example, there are many, when you go to the grocery store, you see a lot of different apple varieties, but really a small handful can do out here. Most of them require a lot more chill hour than what we can provide in our natural climate here. And so we would not recommend that you buy any variety that you want, but the varieties that will derive. And the next consideration is it takes a lot of energy and resources to grow fruit trees and to have fruits. So you may want to consider growing what's practical or desirable. The other thing is that if you have a lot of trees and you may have a lot of fruits, you may want to consider sequence ripening. We could potentially have fruits for harvest most times of the year. So do you want a little bit of different something every month, or do you want a ton of items, a lot of fruits all in the same month? For example, you want a ton of peaches all at the same time so you can can them, freeze them, and otherwise process them all at one time, or do you want something to eat every month or every other week? So in terms of what's practical, we consider input. Low input is where we do some waterings, a little bit fertilizer, some weeding, and the tree doesn't require a lot of additional work. But even then, there may be occasions where you have to deal with certain type of disease or insect issues from time to time. Medium input items require a little bit more work than the low input ones. You do need to be more careful about what we do to provide the better soil condition or watering condition or nutrient specific. For example, blueberry require very acidic soil. So this one needs a little bit special handling. Strawberry is very attractive to everything, including humans love them. Well, guess what? Birds love them too. So you have to protect them. Otherwise, you're barely going to have any harvest, and bugs and other critters loves them as well. So they require protection. High input trees require a lot of work from the beginning till harvest time because a lot of things are attracted to those trees. And so you got a lot more insect issue, you got a lot more potential disease issue, and you need to protect them from birds, from critters, from other people, even neighbors who just want to come and rip some fruits off of your tree. So a lot of protection required. Now, Artie will go into more specific varieties and different type of trees.
Thank you, Angela. Today we will talk about the fruit trees which are good for our area. Apple. So this crisp fruit keeps doctor away, at least what they say. Apple are a favorite homegrown fruit worldwide. We can also grow apple here in Texas. Some recommended varieties are Anna, Dorset Golden, N Shimmer, and Fuji. Apple tree size is influenced by rootstock. There can be three types: standard, dwarf, semi-dwarf. Dwarf trees can reduce the 30 to 40% size of the standard tree. Apple tree are self-fertile. If you need higher production, then buy two or go to the multi-grafted tree. The fruit generally ripen in June, July. Apple needs 100 to 350 chill hours. As you can see in the picture, Anna is red with yellow blush. It needs 200 chill hours. Dorset Golden has yellow skin with pink blush, and it needs 100 chill hours. N Shimmer is pale yellow, and it needs 250 chill hours. Fuji has a reddish skin over yellow color. And Fuji is also a cross between Red Delicious and Ralph's Janet. It's very good variety. Talking about pest, apple tree and fruit can be severely damaged by many insects: pest, aphids, spider mites, codling moth, borer, and some stink bug species. So you must be very careful applying insecticide, especially during bloom time, to protect important pollinators such as bees and other beneficial insects. Next slide, please. Pear. So most pear trees sold in Texas are grafted on Pyrus galleriana, which is remarkable resistant to disease like fire blight. Pear are three types: European pear, Asian pear, and hybrid pear. European pear has buttery texture, taste, and fruit generally ripen on countertop. Asian pear are crispy one. Hybrid is a cross between European and Asian pear. Hybrid variety include Kiefer, Southern King, pineapple. Asian variety include Huzui, Shinseki, 28th century. European pear include Acre Home. This is the one of the best tasting pear, which is this Acre Home is good for our Houston area. But it needs pollinator. You can pollinate with Southern King, Southern Bartlett, or Southern Queen. Kiefer is also another very good variety, heavy producer, and fire blight resistant variety. Pear generally need 300 to 400 chill hours. Trees getting too much nitrogen are more susceptible to fire blight. So do not fertilize unless there is necessary or trees fail to thrive. If it is necessary, give them slow release organic fertilizer. Next slide, please. These sun-loving gems have a preference for well-drained soil. Apricot generally, or you can say, can grow up to 25 feet tall. Fruit is like a peach. Fruit skin will be smooth with short hairs. They are freestone. Freestone means you can easily pull flesh from the pith. They bloom early, they set fruit early, so there is a chances of fruit loss with late frost. They generally require 200 to 300 chill hour. You can harvest them May to early June. Self-fruitful, and some good varieties are Katy and Gold Kissed. Next slide, please. Peaches and nectarine. Peaches is an ancient variety native to northwest China. The main difference between peaches and nectarines are peaches are hairy and nectarines will be smooth velvety skin. So all peaches are characterized by the relationship between the fruit flesh and the pit. Freestone peaches have fruits that easily can be pulled away from the pit, while clingstone peach flesh stubbornly cling to the pit. Freestone peaches examples are all Pride series, August Pride, May Pride, Mid Pride, Eva's Pride, and semi-stone example is Tropic Snow. They all are grafted on Nemagard, Lovell, or Citation rootstock. Mostly peaches are self-fruitful. The trees come in standard and dwarf variety. Now nectarine. Some good varieties of nectarines are Snow Queen, Double Queen, Arctic Star. Next slide, please. Spicy is nectar plum, has white flesh, and it is a cross between nectarine and plum. Pluot is a cross between plum and apricot. Two good variety are Flavor King and Flavor Grenade. Both require pollinator. You can pollinate them with another Pluot or Santa Rosa. Pluot generally require 300 to 400 chill hours. Plums, some good varieties are Methley, Scarlet, Black Beauty, Hollywood, Burgundy, and Santa Rosa. They need 250 to 450 chill hours. Next slide, please. Oh, these are my favorite one. These small fruit is full of antioxidant, vitamin, and nutrients. Truly an American fruit with several species native to North America. They love acidic soil, pH around 4 to 5.5, but we have alkaline soil here in our area. So if you want to grow Blueberries, you can grow them in a container or raised bed with your own acidic grow mix. So you can make your own acidic grow mix by mixing 3P. So 1/3 of peat moss, 1/3 of pine bark, 1/3 of perlite. Mix them and you can plant blueberry in this mixture. Blueberry love rainwater. If you want to fertilize them, you can use azalea and camellia fertilizer. There are two types of blueberry, rabbit eye and southern high bush. Rabbit eye is called rabbit eye because the berries turn pink before they go blue, reminiscent of the eye color of a white rabbit. Some varieties are Climate's Premier Pink Laminate. They are good for our area. Next slide, please. Southern high bush are also called tall bushes. Some recommended variety are Jewel, Rebel, Emerald, Biloxi, Misty, Sunshine Blue. These blueberry are easy to grow and they need minimum maintenance. Southern high bush is a hybrid of northern high bush and Floridian native. Next slide, please. Blackberry are easy to grow, less expensive, fruit grown in Texas. Texas grown blackberry are erect or semi-erect type. Erect or semi-erect type blackberry categorized by whether they have thorn or whether their top will produce fruit on first year growth or on the second year growth. First year growth is called primocane and second year growth is called floricane. Mostly blackberry produce fruit on floricane except the Primark Arkansas series. So Primark series will produce twice a year fruit, one on primocane, other is on older cane or on the floricane. They generally love sandy soil with pH 4.5 to 7.5. If pH is greater than 8, then it can cause iron chlorosis. You can use chelate iron to remove iron chlorosis. Some recommended variety are Caddo, Ochita, Primark, Nats. All these varieties are thornless. Next slide, please. Citrus. So majority of citrus is grafted on trifoliate orange, Citrus trifoliata or Poincerus trifoliata. Some dwarf variety are grafted on flying dragon. We have wide variety of selection like kumquat, calamindon, lemon, lime, orange, mandarin, satsuma, tangerine, pomelo. But kumquat, calamindon, and satsuma are more hardy than the other varieties. Next slide, please. Lemons. So true lemons, there are two types of lemon, true lemon and hybrids. So true lemons are not hardy. They must be planted in a protected area. You can grow them in a container or behind a fence or southeast of your house. They can reach up to 30 feet high and 25 feet wide. Available variety of true lemon are Eureka Frost and Lisbon Seedless. Next slide, please. Both variety, Eureka Frost and Lisbon Seedless, are very similar. You can easily find them in a grocery store. They both have yellow color and both used in cooking or eating fresh. Next slide, please. We have 3 lemon hybrids: lemon improved Meyer, lemon Ujikutsu, and lemon New Zealand. So improved Meyer is very common and popular variety. You can find them in a grocery store, and it is a cross between lemon and orange. It's on the sweeter side and more cold hardy than the other variety. If you like lemonade, then you can go these two varieties, Ujikutsu and New Zealand lemonade are good. If you like sweet lemonade, then go for New Zealand lemonade. And if you like lemonade with some tartness, then go for Ujikitsu. Next slide, please. Just like lemon, lime should also be planted in a protected area. They do not tolerate temperature below 50 degrees, so it's best to plant them in a container. Next slide, please. So true lime are key lime and Kefir lime. Hybrid lime are Persian and Palestinian. Key lime has some thorns on the tree. Key lime is a small fruit, thin rind, and if you let them mature, they will be yellow in color and very juicy. Persian lime, also called Beerus, Tahiti, and seedless lime. It is a cross between key lime and lemon. It's a seedless variety, medium to large fruit. Kefir lime, generally used in Thai cuisine. You can use leaf, juice, zest, everything in cooking. Next slide, please. Grapefruit, scientifically known as Citrus paradisi. It's a cross between pomelo and sweet orange. Its consumption is often associated with various health benefits, including immune system support and cardiovascular health. They love well-drained soil and acidic soil. As you can see in picture, bloom sweet also has white flesh and some seeds, easy to peel. Oro Blanco also has white flesh, but thick peel. Rio Red is inside red flesh. Cocktail grapefruit, as the name suggests, offer a medley of flavor used in culinary. Next slide, please. Navel oranges are seedless. This variety is distinguished by the navel-like formation as its blossom end. And recommended variety are Caracara orange, N33, and Washington navel. Washington navel is most popular backyard orange in the US, and you can easily find it at the grocery store. Caracara is also a good variety, has pink flesh, very juicy. Next slide, please. If you want to buy oranges for juice, so don't buy navel oranges, buy sweet oranges. And we have some good variety here. Republic of Texas, Valencia, Hamlin, Valencia Road Red. Hamlin and Valencia are most popular variety available in grocery store. Republic of Texas is cold hardy variety in comparatively other oranges. And fruit will be very juicy and flavorful. Valencia Road has more, you can say, Valencia Road has produced more juice than Valencia, and it will be less acidic. Next slide, please. Mandarin is originated in India or China. They will be smaller size than oranges, easy to peel. Segment can easily be separated, generally ripen in October and January. And very sweet taste without tartness. Some good varieties are Shiranui, Clementine, Page, Honey, Pixie, Ponkan, and Kishu. Next slide, please. Shiranui Mandarin is also called Sumo or Decopan. It is highly recommended and expensive variety. You can, as you can see in the picture, it will be a bell-like structure, very juicy, very, very flavorful without seed. Sam's Club and Costco and some other grocery stores sell this fruit, approximately $2 a piece. So it is very expensive too. Age mandarin is a cross between Mineola, Tangelo, and Clementine. This fruit is like a small orange. You can easily separate the segments. It's juicy one. Pixie mandarin is also called lunchbox mandarin because of its size, small size. Next slide, please. Another variety of mandarin is honey. It has very unique taste of cinnamon with honey. Considered to be best tasting mandarin. Clementine fruit ripen early, small, sweet, juicy, easy to peel. Next slide, please. Satsuma is considered more hardy than the other citrus. They are mostly seedless, and some recommended varieties are Brown Select, Ovari, Miho, Sito, Zishan. One thing is to remember, when you harvest Satsuma, harvest them when they are green with orange blush. If you let them ripe, or if you wait for orange color, the skin will be puffy and inside it will be dry. So it's better harvest them when the rind is green with orange blush. So brown salad generally ripen in mid-November, medium-sized tree, more cold hardy. Next slide, please. Miho also ripen in September, October, and it is cold hardy too. Fruit will be sweet and seedless. Setu, extremely cold hardy, medium-sized fruit. Zishan, ripen in September, November, medium-sized tree, super sweet flavor, and it's a good variety. Next slide, please. Tangerine. Tangerine is a cross between an orange and a mandarin. Good variety is Dancy, which is easy to peel and very juicy. Yeah, now I'm taking a little break. Angela will talk about tropical fruits. Angela.
Yes. Let's talk about some of the other subtropical varieties. First, foremost, banana. We eat, for the most part, I think, a ton of bananas. It goes with just about anything, and it's actually not a tree. It's a pseudostem. It grows from the underground corn. If you eat taro roots, it's very similar to that. And the 135th leaf is actually the terminal fluorescence that bears the fruit. So if the banana keeps on bearing, growing leaves and no flower, just keep waiting because it will eventually come if it doesn't get killed to the ground with a freezing event. So it will not survive freezing events with temperatures down to the high 20s. However, one good thing is that it is self-fruitful and it grows suckers or pups readily. And so if it dies to the ground, it will regrow pretty much without any problem. And you can put some of them in pots and grow them that way, preferably with a smaller dwarf variety to help in easier transport of pots into a shelter protected area. Next, we look at figs. Figs, for the most part, self-fruitful. So there's several different type of figs. What grows here for us is what's called a common fig, and it doesn't require pollination. Other figs may require a wasp, but that's not the case for our figs here. And you can expect to have harvest anytime between June all the way through August. So it has a pretty good long harvesting season with a lot of different varieties to choose from. The ones that we recommend are listed here, and many of them have either purple in color with very deep flavors, or the lighter color ones are sweet with a lighter flavor and a lot of different colors in between. Figs are very vigorous, so it takes pruning well, especially tip pruning. If you want the fruit to ripen faster, pinch off the tip, so that way the growth hormone, instead of going up, will go to the fruits. during the fruiting season. And most of the varieties that you will see selling here, even in big box stores, are close-eye variety. That way there's less chance of insect getting into the fruit. And you want to watch out for rain events. If the fruits are ripening during a heavy rain event, the fruits may still open their eyes and the fruit will rot in the rain. And so it's something to plan for if you have a lot of fruits hanging on, and check the fruits after the rain event. If they already start opening, harvest them, use them, otherwise freeze them, however you can to preserve your harvest. Next, we'll look at jujubes. Jujube is also native to China and known as Chinese dates. These fruits will also sucker, so similar to fig and banana, they are on root trees for the most part because they do sucker a lot. And so if they sucker, you don't necessarily need to control it with a rootstock. So they'll mature in the summertime also, June to August, and their pits are very similar to olive. Has a apple-like flavor if you eat them fresh, but it is quite thorny. And Li and Lang are the commercial varieties that's very popular in the United States. Sanxi is also gaining a lot of grounds and it has very large fruits. They are good to eat fresh, or you can leave them to turn brown on the tree. And it preserves well. You can eat them as a shriveled up, drier fruit, or you can use them in soups. A lot of different uses for this little gem. Next, we'll look at mulberry. Mulberry is highly tolerant of heat, humidity, and even poor soil. And they're self-fruitful. The varieties that do well here require low chills, and they're also very low maintenance. So the dwarf everbearing one produces fruits that's pretty tiny in size, and it's not very conducive for harvesting. What you can do is put a sheet underneath the tree and just shake branches or the whole trunk if you can. It's small enough to shake. Otherwise, grab a big branch and start shaking, and the ripened fruits will drop, and you can then harvest them from, pick them up from the sheet in pretty easy format. The Pakistan mulberry has a much larger, longer fruit. It's upwards of 2 inches in some cases, and the fruits does not stain. Because one of the things you want to consider is that when the fruits drop, because they do produce in such abundance, you will drop to the ground. If they're on concrete, they're on other type of protected grounds, it may stain. Depending on variety. So the Pakistan one is extremely popular for its non-staining character, in addition to its delicious fruit. The trees, though, can grow to be quite huge. If you do want to keep it manageable, make sure that you prune it judiciously. Now we'll look at persimmons. While we have native persimmons here in the United States, the varieties are not tasty at all. And so native persimmons are usually used as rootstocks. The ones that we do prefer to grow has a non-astringent feature, which means it doesn't pucker up when you bite into it while it's still crunchy. So fuyu is a top contender for that. It can be eaten crisp like an apple. Or if you don't harvest it early and you want it to soften up a bit, because it will become sweeter if it gets softer. So you can have a longer harvesting timeline with the fuyu persimmon. Saijiu is astringent. If you eat it before it's ripened, your tongue, your mouth will have a really bad feeling for a long time. So do not eat it before it's ripe. So this might be a variety where you can plant out there where you can tempt your neighbors' kids and whatnot. And once they taste it, before it's ready, they probably won't bother you again. There are a lot of different varieties being sold in the nurseries, and coffee cake persimmon could be a unique one where you may want to try. Again, we do want to make sure that you check the chill hours to make sure that it will grow in the Fort Bend climate. So next we'll look at pomegranate. Pomegranate has a lot of antioxidant, and you see it in grocery stores as a fresh fruit, but also you see a lot of them in a juice form. It easily withstands freezes, but it does need a Mediterranean-like climate with a lot of heat and some good amount of humidity. Mild winters are best for it. It can get some freeze damage, but it usually survives. It also is another fruit tree that suckers a lot, and actually technically is more like a shrub, not like a tree. The varieties that do well here include Kandahar Early, Pavianka, Salavaski, Kashmir Wonderful, and Sharp Velvet. For pomegranate, you also wanted to consider whether or not you want hard seed or soft seed. Soft seed, you can chew it and for the most part swallow the seed and the juice together. Hard seeds, they literally take, it's big sand, and it's very, very difficult to really want to swallow it, and you may choke, and it takes very gritty. And so the hard seed varieties are usually used for juicing. And even on the soft seed varieties, many people just don't like the seed texture. So juice is quite often the way to process fruit, although the diehard ones do definitely want to eat pomegranate fresh. So on the next page, we'll share the 3 varieties that we will have at our fruit tree sale on February the 10th. Kandahar only requires about 150 chill hours, and it's an old world variety from Afghanistan. Has a bright red skin, and it's very sweet. The Salavaski one has a large pale red fruit with the pink areoles. Their seeds are semi-soft, also very sweet. Pavianka has really large and red areoles with a red soft seed, and it's one of the highest quality fruits around. And this is coming out of Dr. Gregory Levine's breeding program in Turkmenistan. Now we'll look at avocados. So avocado, a lot of people love to grow them. They're not cold hardy until mature. If you get them from the nursery and the trunk is still green, make sure that you protect them at least for 2-3 years. You can wrap them with cheesecloth, other type of tree protection, tree guard, until the trunk becomes brown, because of the susceptibility to sunburn. Protection will make sure that it thrives in its earlier years. There are quite a few varieties available that have great taste. Now, one of the things that people ask a lot is something called type A or type B. Now, what are they? Are they relevant here? So type A is a type of avocado tree that will flower in the early morning, and then the flower will close and reopen the next day in the afternoon as a male. So open as a female flower day 1 in the morning, day 2 open as a male in the afternoon. Type B, on the other hand, similar cycle, except that it opens in the afternoon of day 1 as a female, and then close, opens as female in the morning of day 2. Now, this creates a problem, because how is the tree going to be self-pollinating when the flowers synchronizes and opens either as male or female? Well, in climates where the temperature is rather consistent, you will need to have 2 types of trees, type A and type B, together to cross-pollinate. However, in our crazy weather here, where it's hot and cold, windy, and then summer in one day and winter the next day, the rhythm of the tree is messed up. And so the flowering is not consistent as in its native environment, where the climate is rather stable. So we don't have to worry about it here, so it's irrelevant. You can have 1 avocado tree and it can be self-pollinating. And as always with any other tree that are fruitful, it's good to have more than one. So you do have a higher chance of cross-pollination and to have a higher fruit production. So the varieties that we have here, Brazos Bell is a Mexican variety, has thin, purple black skin, oblong fruit, cold hardy to make pens once it matures. Zoe is very cold hardy, also to upper teens, but it has a medium fruit and it's a very heavy producer. Lila, also somewhat cold hardy here, and it's got green skin. Ooh La La is a type of Hass avocado, has a small oval shape and turns black as it nears maturity. Next. This year, we're also gonna have coffee arabica. It's an ornamental plant that can grow in semi-shade or full sun. Beautiful plant, bloom time is spring with white flowers. And those flowers are very fragrant like jasmine. They will convert to berry form and turning red. Some of the organic growers in South America and other areas of the world will hand harvest them when they turn red to make sure that it has the highest flavor and source them for specialty coffee shops and producers. They are self-fruitful. And of course, you require some processing, roasting, but it's a beautiful plant to have. Next, we'll talk about dragon fruit. Dragon fruit is a tropical cactus vine. It requires a lot of protection. It cannot withstand temperatures below 50 degrees. And so it's best to grow it in pots. And when you grow in pots, make sure that you have or in ground for that matter, to have a heavy-duty trellis. The fruit grows as a vine and then it branches out, and then the flowers and the fruits themselves are extremely heavy. So the trellis needs to be able to handle at least 150 pounds worth of weight on top in our windy climate during the summer. So make sure it is, again, extremely sturdy and you stick it down well. It's planted in pots. A quality potting soil mix of peat moss, compost, perlite, and sand would be very helpful. The plant or the vine could take 2 to 3 years to produce fruit. And when it flowers, the bud opens at dusk. Now it needs to be hand pollinated. On the picture on the lower left side, you see that the anthers, which is the one that has all the pollens, and then the finger that's holding the stigma, that's the female part. So you want to take a brush and brush on the anthers and then put those pollens onto the stigma to hand pollinate it. So dragon fruits has 3 different types of fertility. So the self-fertile ones, the pollens from the anthers will pollinate the stigma more naturally. However, in order to have higher production, you do want to help it a little bit to help nature by hand pollinating. Now, the self-pollinating one, meaning that the pollens will pollinate, but the fruit itself will not pollinate itself. It definitely requires help. So insects, hand pollination are required to make sure that fruits will be set. The self-sterile one, the pollen from the endo will not pollinate the stigma. So you need another variety for cross-pollination. So of course, the ones that we will have at our fruit tree sale are all gonna be the one that we have at our fruit tree sale, the unidentified one is self-fertile, and that one's being tried and tested. But the other 2 are called self-sterile, so you do need 2 varieties to cross-pollinate. But they're beautiful in form, and the fruit's extremely unique, and with protection, you can have success. Next, we'll look at Loqua. Loqua is a Japanese plum or mantler. It's evergreen with beautiful, stiff, large leaves. Some of them could be as long as 12 inches or more, and with hairs at the underside and on the top as well. it blooms in late fall into winter, and then the fruits starts maturing in winter and finish maturing in winter. Many a times you can see that when we don't have a hot freeze during the winter, you will see fruits hanging on them and ready for harvest by late February. And so it's important for you to protect the tree if we do have frost, because both flowers and fruits will be killed when temperature drops below 27. But the trees will withstand the freezing temperature, even down to 10 degrees, no problem. It's just that the fruit production will be toasted for the year, basically. And the fruits are tangy, sweet taste, has really large seeds inside for the most part. The skin is very easy to peel. And they can be eaten fresh or processed. The trees, because of the frost here, don't produce fruits consistently, but a lot of people still have them because it has a beautiful form and it's a great landscaping plant, especially with its evergreen feature. Olives. It's a Mediterranean tree. It does best in mild winter with long, warm, and dry summer. The trees similar to loquat can be used as a landscaping plant, or it can be used to produce fruit. Arbequina is the one that does really well in Texas and is actually commercially grown. Its great all-purpose trees stay relatively small. They're also semi-deciduous, so you'll see them shedding leaves through the winter, but not completely defoliated. This particular variety is also very tolerant to cold weather, insect, and drought. And it also is self-pollinating. But the fruit, in order to be eaten, available for eating, requires brining. So a lot of commercial growers really grow them for olive oil production. Now let's look at some other notable fruits. We see guava, kiwis are widely available. In the Asian grocery stores, you can see longan and lychee. Mangoes and papayas are widely available in all grocery stores. Passion fruit, every once in a while, you'll see them. Pawpaw, I hardly see them here because it's difficult to transport and keep them without a lot of bruising. But pineapple, widely available, and stock fruits, you can see them in some of the unique Asian grocery stores. Those are also different fruits that people try to grow here. I've heard of one who has a mango tree, multi-grafted mango tree that's in Northwest Houston, that's been in the ground for 15 years, and it takes them 2 days, 3 people to protect the tree from frost, but it's well worth it when you have fruits producing. Next, we'll look at sites for growing fruit trees. So not everybody has a lot of space and or own a house to where you can freely plant fruit trees in the ground. So patio growing in pots is definitely an option. It's low investment, and you can also control the type of soil that goes into it. It's also a lot easier to protect. If it has a freezing weather coming up, you can move it indoors a lot easier than trying to protect something in the ground. But you still need to have at least 6 hours of sunlight. More hours would be even better. So in-ground growing, next slide, please. There are different considerations if you have the room. One is the orientation to the sun. We're in the north of the equator, so we're in the northern hemisphere, and the sun goes around us from east, southern exposure, and then going to west. And so you want to look at where do you want to place your tree around your house. That's most of us for our structure, but there may be other sites where you can have warehouses and other buildings and or your neighbor's property, right? Whether or not they're shading your tree from across the fence. So you want to also look up for utility that may be going through right above the area where you want it to grow. And also look under to make sure that you are not digging into, or the trees are not going to interfere with any underground utilities. And also, how close are you placing it? So yes, you can place it next to a fence, but how are you going to tend to it if it got really big and you need to, say, prune something? It's growing into a fence, or in the second picture, going through a part of the porch. The next thing we want to consider is soil. We highly recommend that you do a soil sample test by digging different parts of the yard or wherever you are planting. If you have bigger space, make sure that you have a good sample from all different parts of your site. Dig down to at least a foot and you get a good size sample from different parts of that site, because the test will test for the soil pH. So you know whether or not it's acidic or alkaline or neutral. And it will also give you information about soil nutrient, right? The different composition of nutrient in the soil. And the testing site will give you detailed instruction on how to obtain your samples and how to send it in, mix it and send it in. The test, though, will not tell you some other information that you may think that it's available. For one, soil depth, right? You take a sample from about a foot deep, it's not going to tell you how many more feet deeper than that will be soil and then some other layer of earth. And then drainage. If you have clay, clay is clay. Well, how much clay? How loose is your clay? Whether or not the samples that you dig has a lot more organic material mixed into it, or it's just really, really very, very heavy, fine silt type of black gumbo. It cannot tell you because you mix it up, right? From the different parts of your site. And then also the presence of any soil-borne pathogen or residual chemicals if the site was used for prior productions of commercial growth or any other purpose prior to you occupying that land. And also whether or not its suitability to grow any sort of specific perennial crop. Again, it doesn't tell you a lot of things, but it does tell you the pH and the nutrient composition. So you know when you need to fertilize or want to fertilize what the soil needs more, what's lacking and what's already there. Next consideration is drainage. I mentioned black gumbo a lot. Black gumbo is rich in nutrient, however, it is not very drainage friendly. So we have a lot of rain in the summer, and not too long ago, we just have a ton, and people are showing pictures of a tree literally sitting in water. So you may want to consider building a berm or a raised bed, putting your tree in a raised bed for your tree to make sure that the water that comes to it, while it needs a lot of good water for growth, it cannot be drowned with standing water. Roots need air and to breathe and to uptake into its cells, but it cannot be sitting underwater for too long. And also you want to look at the water source that you're utilizing. City water is usually pretty good quality. If you have well water, what type of minerals are in those well water? Are you putting too much of one type of mineral in there because that's what's abundantly available in your water source or not? So similar to soil testing, you may want to get your water tested as well to make sure that you know what you are putting onto those trees. Now, if you were to do a drainage test, The recommendation or percolation test, the recommendation is that you dig a hole that is about 1 foot wide, 2 feet deep with straight sides like the picture on the upper right-hand corner. And you fill the hole with water, let it sit overnight to get a more accurate reading. So the next day, once the water pretty much drain, you refill the hole with water, and then you measure the drainage every hour on day 2. Ideally, the drainage is about 2 to 3 inches per hour. And again, if not, if water sits there, you might want to consider building a berm or raised bed to plant your tree. It is, after all, a lot of investment. So it's worthwhile to make sure that the site is prepared correctly. So next, we'll look at planting. Oh, a few more things. You also want to consider the space to grow, the distance between the trees. There are some of us who like to do high density planting, but then we keep the trees small and we keep them closer together. You wanted to think about air circulation and also how easy it is to maintain them. If they're very close together, the branches are hitting each other, is that desirable? And if you plant it very close to a structure, can you get to the back of it to also tend to it? And then we mentioned a lot about whether or not it's a fruitful pollinator needed, because if it needs a pollinator, you need room for two varieties. So planting consideration on the next slide. You want to select an area with that is well drained, as mentioned earlier, and you remove the vegetation on the top to a minimum of 3-foot diameter circle. Locate the root flare from the pot and make sure that you don't plant above that line. When you remove the tree from the pot, you can cut off any circling roots, remove any growing medium that is easy to remove. Some people could sit the tree in water for a little while to shake out all of the growing mediums. Those are not true soil. That way it helps you to easily spread out the roots. The planting hole needs to be at least the same depth as the pot, and then twice as wide. For the soil that you dig out, you want it to make sure that you just loosen it, but do not add any fertilizer to them. You do not want to amend them. You want them to be native soil. And also the planting hole needs to be more of a bowl shape to help water and nutrient to go in, instead of dig them like a stock pot straight down, because then the roots may have a harder time penetrating when it goes all the way to the edge. Next, let's talk about pruning. In year 1, sometimes you'll hear people tell you to prune the tree down at the beginning. It's a hard thing to do, but it's actually recommended, because if you want to keep it small and you want it to control how it shapes out, you can cut it all the way down to 3 to 4 feet from above the ground. So you literally have a stick. That's a very hard thing to do. Even I still have a hard time trying to do that. But if you do it, you can allow it to grow out and decide which branch you want to keep and what shape or form you want it to take a lot more easier. Now, if you don't, at least top off a little bit from the top and then remove any crossing branches, anything that is sitting right on top of each other. You want it to kind of go around the tree and just remove the layers that are shading out each other and have a nice, well-rounded form around the trunk. And then year 2, year 3, can look at the picture for different areas to cut to where you can shape it. Additional pruning considerations is on the next page, is that you wanted to look at what type of branches are on that tree. So any suckers, any branches that are going straight up, which are called water spouts, you want to remove. And any branches that are going almost vertical, anything that's less than 45 degrees to the branch, you want to remove those or use some sort of a weight to weigh them down to where you create what's called a strong crotch. That way it can handle additional weight when it starts growing out more branches, twigs, flowers, and eventually fruit. That crotch is able to handle the weight of the additional growth. Next, we look at irrigation. So most fruit trees, as mentioned before, are sensitive to waterlogged. You want it to water them, but you also don't want to drown them. A lot of commercial operations have overhead watering with the sprinkler system. Drip irrigation is the recommended one, and you can see tubes going through the whole lines of trees. Generally speaking, you want about 1 inch per week if there's no rain. The flood irrigation method, where you turn on the sprinkler and just let it go and go and go, it's cheap, but it's inefficient and also can spread disease. So targeted watering is preferred, where you can use a sprinkler, but the sprinkler head is right next to the tree, and you can also control the angle, right? The drip tape is the best, where it's just dripping in the area and you can control the distance, how many inches between drips, where you want the water to go. But those takes a little bit more operation and you have more pots to deal with. But once set up, they're pretty efficient. So next, let's look at fertilization management. We mentioned about testing soil first. You also want to look at how the trees is growing to check for visual symptoms. Does it have corrosis? Are the fruits growing with any abnormalities? Does it looks like it's thriving or it's not? Are the leaves curling, having things that looks like it's growing like a leaf miner? You also want to make sure that you avoid fertilizing until new growth is visible, because too much fertilizer can burn the roots and actually damage them instead of helping them grow. And when applying fertilizer, make sure to apply away from the base, at least 18 inches away. And then as the tree gets bigger, you want to apply them outwards, more toward the drip line, which is where the end of the crown is, right? Not in the center where the trunk is, because trees get their nutrient from those smaller roots, not from the big anchoring roots. And micronutrient may be needed depending on what the tree's preference for either acidic or alkaline soil. And if you do have a situation of iron deficiency, you can use an iron chelated product called EDDHA to neutralize a little bit more of those alkaline soil. You can use granular fertilizer timed with a rain or irrigation event, or the liquid fertilizer when you have a drip tape set up, and also a little bit of foliar fertilization. A lot of times those are used with compost tea. And the next consideration is weed control. When there's bare soil, weed will grow. There's a way for seeds to find space and you will flourish. Young trees compete poorly with those weeds and turf grass, and that's why you wanted to make sure that you have a planting hole that's large enough that's weed free. A 4x4 area is preferred, if not at least 3x3, and you can expand that area as the tree grows. And sometimes when the tree canopy gets large, you will naturally shade out the weeds underneath it, and so you will have the ground that becomes a little bit more bare. When the tree's young, use the tree guards or cheesecloth or any sort of tubes to protect the trunk, especially on the varieties that are sensitive to sunburn. And keep a good thick layer of mulch on the tree, especially during summer, and keep them well watered. Next, Adi will talk about some disease management
Thank you,
practices.
Angela. We have talked about our heroes, fruit trees. Now let us look into the villains. Fruit families are divided into two categories, pome fruit tree or stone fruit tree. Pome fruit tree are apple, loquat, medlar, pear, and quince. Stone fruit trees are almond, apricot, cherry, peach, nectarine, and plum. Pome fruit trees has different disease and pests, including apple scab, which is a serious disease resulting in loss due to severe surface blemishing of fruits, blight, canker, moldy core, rust, viral disease are some other disease and pest which is related to pome fruit tree. Other stone fruit trees has borer, bacterial canker, coquilio. So we will discuss some of the disease and pests here. Apple cotton root rot usually present in alkaline soil, and there is no control for that. If you have lost your plant to cotton root rot, grow the tree in a container or avoid planting apples. Moldy core and core rot disease in apples refer to some specific fungal disorder affecting the fruit, causing browning and rotting of the apple core. Bacterial canker generally infests stems and leaves. Fire blight in pear is bacterial disease that affect the foliage. It looks like foliage has burned by the fire. Borer eat woody parts. Coquilio is a beetle of the weevil family that infests the fruit of apple, nectarine, plum, cherry, peach, apricot, pear, and quince. So apple, peaches, nectarine must be pruned and must be sprayed. So insect, scales, mice, and disease pathogen can overwinter on your tree. By spraying, you can really overcome this problem. You can spray 3 times a year around Thanksgiving, around Christmas time, and around Valentine time. And you can use horticulture oil and copper fungicide. Next slide, please. Some citrus disease and pests are aphids, brown soft scale, anthracnose, black spot, greasy spot, melanois, scab, canker, white flies, leaf miners, leprosis, orange dog caterpillar, CVC, and citrus greening. In all these, canker and citrus greening are most important ones. Next slide, please. We are in citrus quarantine. You can visit USDA or TDA website. And easily found information about citrus canker and citrus greening. So on the website, there are symptom, history, cure, everything is there. So citrus canker and citrus greening, both are incurable disease. Symptoms of citrus canker or you can say you will see brown spot on both sides of the leaves surrounded by halo sign. And fruit of the citrus plant and other plants in citrus family is not harmful to human, but this disease or citrus canker disease is highly contagious and can be easily spread by people carrying the infection on their hand and clothing, or wind-driven rain, or by equipment, or moving infected plant from one place to another. It can include fruit, leaves, stems. Citrus greening generally spread by the Asian citrus psyllid. It is very destructive and incurable. It poses no threat to human or animal, and fruit can be easily eaten. If you want to control these disease, or if you want to control citrus greening, you can control psyllid population. Next slide, please. This is a map you can easily find on TDS site. You can see below the I-10 or above the I-10 some canker infected area. Next slide. This is a map for citrus greening quarantine. Now the question is how you can help the USDA and TDA to control the spread of these disease. Number one, buy from the certified nursery. And every plant should have quarantine tag like this yellow tag. This tag has treated date, and it said outside of quarantine area, prohibited, movement is prohibited. So if you are buying citrus here in Fort Bend County, you cannot move citrus outside or other county except the 5 counties, which are Fort Bend, Harris, Galveston, Brazoria, or Montgomery. And if you see any unusual symptoms, call FBMG or our Fort Bend County hotline number, or USDA or TDA to confirm about these disease, citrus or greening. So don't panic. Prevention is better than cure. So if you see any symptoms, call our hotline number or call TDA or call USDA. Next slide, please. So these are 4 steps for diagnosis. First, know the normal host characteristics. Next is look for symptoms or timing of symptoms, and look for the patterns. And if you find anything unusual, there is an email listed here, fortbendmg@ag.tamu.edu. You can call or you can email us with the pictures and a detailed description of the problem, and we will help you. Next slide, please. We have talked about heroes and villains, now the soldiers. So integrated pest management, IPM, uses 4 key strategies to control disease spread and pest damage while fostering environmental awareness and stewardship. So first is Plant genetic resistance to pest and disease. Plant genetic resistance means buy a tree which is resistant to disease, like citation rootstock, Nemagard rootstock. They are very resistant to root knot nematode. Pyrex galleriana is resistant to fire blight. So try to buy some good varieties or the varieties which has good rootstock. Next is biological control, the use of one organism to another to control another, like aphids control ladybugs. Planting garlic near the vegetable can deter many pests. And the other control is environmental and cultural, which is favorable for the plant but unfavorable for the pest. Chemical control, this is the last resort. If you don't find anything, then go for chemicals. Next slide, please. Not all bugs and insects are bad. Some are beneficial too. So some beneficial predators are listed here. Lacewings feed on aphids, mites, thrips, mealybugs, small caterpillar, immature whiteflies, nymph, and scale insects. Big-eyed bugs feed on bug nymph, flea beetles, insect eggs, small caterpillar, and all stages of aphids, mites, and whiteflies. Parasitoid, the female lay their eggs inside the whitefly nymph, and when hatched, the larvae feed internally on the whitefly, killing them. In addition to have good predators, there are several maintenance and prevention strategies we also recommend. First is a sanitation practice. So rake all the fallen leaves, branches, twigs, and fruits, double bag any material that have sign of bacterial or virus damage, and send to landfill. Do not compost. Keep the understory of the tree mulched well. Avoid wounds. Avoid necessary pruning or other physical damage done by landscape equipment. Encourage overall tree health is also a very good practice with proper watering, fertilization, thinning out fruit, pruning. If necessary, use chemicals, but use approved insecticides to minimize common insect damage. Next slide, please. These are the resources which we used in our presentation. Next slide, please. These are upcoming events. So all the fruit trees we discussed today will be available on our annual fruit tree sale, which is on February 10th, 9 to 12 a.m. So try to come early. And next event is creating healthy garden soil on February 17th. Our spring vegetable and herb sale is on March 9th. Next slide, please. Next slide. So please take a few minutes to complete a brief survey about today's class. We want to hear from you. So you can scan this code or click on the above link. Thank you all. Now I will call to Nancy. She wanna say something? Nancy?
I think we'll conclude this class. Thank you all for your participation. And if there's any additional questions, just feel free to call us at our help desk, sending a question email, especially when you have questions related to any pest issues and damages to the plants and you wanted us to help you with diagnosing and treating them. We need pictures to properly review what the situation is, and we most definitely need to chat with you for some additional details. And so feel free to send those in. And thank you for being part of growing team, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.